So let's actually get back to like the project itself. When you
Mhm.
when you wanted to sit down and actually start working on a project like this, like where do you even start with something like this? Like you see the API there, you see you have a GPU. What do you even do to start getting anything, doing anything?
Uh, Start with the so in this case was starting with trying to understand what CUDA is, because it was my first CUDA project. I mean, I know what CUDA is,
Uh-huh.
uh, but I had years of experience writing. Oh, this was also, I didn't mention, the secondary goal of this project was to actually understand how CUDA works, or how you write CUDA code. So at this point I had years of experience writing Intel GPU code,
Mm-hmm.
but Intel GPU slightly niche. It's always worth it to understand what is the competition doing, how do you write CUDA code. So firstly, understand how do you even simplest things with CUDA,
Mm-hmm.
and then the goal has been, the first goal has been an application that has simplest thing possible, adds two numbers on a GPU. So
Mm-hmm.
it still needs to do a fair bit of setup. So get a context, load the source module, allocate memory, all those stuff. So look with tool like, so on Linux you have tool like ltrace, where you can log all the interactions of your application with certain libraries. So one of the first things to do was understand what sort of host functionality has to be implemented, and think really hard, can it be implemented in terms of Intel GPU? So all this host functionality. So don't think big. Don't think big. Uh, That's what worked for me. It was just a simple application. Because it was a research project, I had no goals to, have complex things running. If I had, 2 and 2 returning 4 on the GPU, I would be successful.
Mm-hmm.
So I have a simple application. I know what are the interaction. Obviously, it was a lie because I didn't know about Dark API at the time.
Mm-hmm.
But and then I look at those calls, and each of them, there's like, I don't know, 10 of them, and I know, okay, all of them can be expressed in the terms of Intel level 0. And this is host code interaction. Since I have experience with writing GPU code, I know there's also the GPU side code. So next step was try to understand what is the format of the Nvidia GPU code. Is it some kind of intermediate representation, or is it some kind of specific architecture specific assembly? I mean, depending on the level of complexity, either can work.
Mm-hmm.
And here I was lucky because, as I said, Nvidia is competent, and they have virtual assembly called PTX, and this is a text format. So I have a text format, and this text format contains, and it's somewhat abstract, at least from my perspective. So it's virtual abstract representation. It's not written for a specific assembly, but it's going to work after compilation with any CUDA GPU. And I look at the instruction set, and actually, good thing, NVIDIA documents the PTX format, and I look at those instructions, and all those instructions I'm familiar with, and I know they're going to work on Intel GPUs, some things like load memory, store memory, do multiplication, do addition. All those things are going to support it on Intel GPU. And I was still thinking small. So, okay, I have my very simple module in text format, and I have my host code So it looks possible. If it looks possible, then I started implementing, starting with the PTX, with the compiler, because looks relatively easy, but as I start implementing, there are complications.
Mhm.
And way to implement this sort of classical compiler design. You have your text code. You start by parsing it using a parser generator. In my case, it was a Rust library called lalrpop. It's that's the name. So
Sure.
yeah, it comes from it comes from abbreviation of this kind of grammars it can parse. It's not super fun, but library is good.
Mhm,
No,
mhm,
no, this is a solid library, and I start parsing those things, and then once you have things parsed, you have in sort of in memory representation of the source code. Uh, you now start writing your transformation passes, and every transformation pass makes it slightly closer to your target. Uh, so I didn't even think about what my target is going to be. At first, I thought maybe I can compile it straight to the Intel GPU instruction set, but relatively early I decided no, it's not going to work. I'm going to compile it to SPIR-V, which is a bit more abstract, much easier to compile for, which was the right choice. So okay, I'm going to compile to SPIR-V, and now in every compilation path, I try to make it a little closer to what SPIR-V is expecting.
mhm,
And it sounds simple, but there's a fair bit of weird behaviors in PTX format. There's entirely, for example, there's entirely too many address spaces. On GPU, you are generally going to have like four different address spaces: global memory, shared memory, private memory, generic memory, maybe
mhm,
constant memory. And PTX has like 7 or 8, and even in a simple kind of 7 or 8 different address spaces. Some of them are, I mean, if things were designed from the ground up, are really not necessary in the current world, but they exist, and you need to have some way to translate them to address spaces that are available in SPIR-V. Some instructions have no direct replacement in SPIR-V, so you have to replace with a series of simpler instructions, this sort of thing,
mhm,
and it took a long time. So it was almost a year just to have translation that actually translated correctly and worked.
mhm,
So if you are attempting something like this, I don't have any advice other than start small and never give up.
mhm,
Because so I gave up like 3 or 4 times. One of those things was I said previously, dark API. First time I encountered this. Another time was when I was very technical. So I did one pass that was completely unnecessary,
mhm,
translation to SSA format, and I realized that well, it's completely unnecessary. LVM and SPIC are going to do this for you. You don't have to do this.
mhm. What is the
That's
SSA format?
single static assignment. This is sort of representation on which compilers operate, optimizing compiler, because this sort of compiler that is inside Zluda is not an optimizing compiler, it's just translation.
Right.
So it's completely unnecessary. And there's some 2 or 3 other things I don't remember, but I do remember just giving this project a rest for a week or two several times and still coming back to it.
Mhm. When you said this was your first CUDA project, the first thing I instantly thought of was the the Linus Torvalds Linux email, it's just a hobby project. It won't be anything serious like GNU.
Yeah, yeah. As I said, I didn't expect it to be any big. Was the main reason I wanted to do this. I wanted to learn about level 0 and code. Mainly about level 0 because it was new for all of us at Intel at the time.